Hello everyone, it is Smitha. I am glamsmitty on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And today is another requested video. People liked the series that I kind of started with making a kind of starters bundle to Cliona. And a couple of the brands that you guys were keen on were NBA, Terra Moons. There were a few others as well. So I went ahead and pulled out, I thought this was doing pretty good for me, but 14 shadows as, a starter's guide, with the understanding that, you may be looking for less than that, but I think the goal of what I tried to do was just to select what felt to me like a good variety of shadows, if you're new to the brand, and would give you kind of a good taste or sampling of their shadows. Of course, if you have different preferences, then this list is going to be different for you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get going. These are in this palette. This is just an empty color palette. These are in this palette in no particular order. And I'll kind of explain why I chose each one as we go along. And maybe if I can think of any shadows that are similar to these ones that you may own, I'll mention it. So the first one is Veil Nebula, and this shadow is what I selected this one because I thought this was a good multi-chrome to pick for people that really like their neutrals but still like playing and experimenting with or curious about multi-chromes. So this is Veil Nebula. It is almost hard for me to describe what the base color is. It has a really beautiful kind of like purpley mauve type of base, but a really strong kind of like cool golden green shift to it. And this is very similar to the shadow Opulent from Cliona. So if you own that, then you don't need the shadow. But another thing I'll mention about trying different brands even that have the same color selection is that the textures and formulas are often different. So you may have reasons. Maybe you're about to pan Opulent, or you want to try a different texture. I think that might be another good reason to have like some similar shades from different brands, because you'll get a different effect. The nice thing, since we're talking about textures, the nice thing to know about Terra Moons is that they have what I would say one of the biggest, if not the biggest, selection of textures. So they do have super smooth eyeshadow textures, and then more textured, more flaky formulas as well. So I like to think that they really do have, when it comes to textures, something for everyone. So just something to keep in mind. But this shadow, since we're talking about textures, is smooth. So I would say, if you prefer like smoother shadows, you're going to get that with this shade. The next shadow is what I would consider to be a cult classic, and that is the Cosmos. It has kind of like a light blue base, and if I can get this to focus here, and it's got, I'm going to take these out of frame so that they don't like confuse the camera. But it's got kind of like rainbow shifts, but pink, predominantly pink and sort of like a light green. But this shadow definitely I think is iconic, and I saw a lot of shades similar to this from other brands come out after it, and it's just one that I feel like no one gets tired of, and is gives such ethereal looks if that's what you like. It is, you know, slightly flakier texture, but I have not heard, you know, too many people say that this texture does not work for them. And I like all of the textures, but then again, like, I don't have hooded eyes or, you know, issues with textured shadows. So I will mention that, but this is the Cosmos, and I feel like if you're new to Terra Moons, this should be one of the shadows that you try for sure. The next one is Interdimensional, and Interdimensional is sort of like a deep blue base, and this came out this past winter. It is so striking. Not a lot of multichromes I've seen quite like it. And I will mention, I couldn't find my shade Bellatrix. There is another shade in this launch that came out called Bellatrix, which has some similarities to this. I believe that Bellatrix is ever so slightly lighter in its base, but if you're new to the brand and you're trying just to select, you know, a few shadows, I would maybe select one rather than both of those. But yeah, I really love this and think that it's a pretty unique offering in the multichrome world. The next shadow I picked out is Coalescence, and I think I actually picked this as, like, you know, maybe my all-time favorite multichrome, but, you know, I just, this is another one that I feel like is a bit of a trendsetter. This was the first shadow I ever tried that was this really kind of hot green shadow with pinky shifts, which I love. Greens with pink shifts. I just think they're so cool. And subsequently I've seen, you know, a lot of shades kind of similar to this come out, but this one is just, you know, is so special to me and is very fiery and fun. So if you like this kind of shade and that description that I gave, I think this is a really fun shadow. The texture of this one is similar to the Cosmos, so slightly flaky. And also I forgot to mention, Interdimensional is smooth. So my next shade, I tried to pick some grungy shades. This is also from the winter release. This is, I can't like pronounce it, but Ophiuchus. But one of my favorite green shades, and smooth, really just kind of when I want to build like earthy color stories or have kind of an earthy look, but it has some some brightness to it that's sort of interesting. That's the one I go for. But yeah, I think this is another one that's super special. What is it unique? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, I think there are definitely like, you know, other special greens from other brands, and that's true for probably all of these shades. But this one I think is a great offering from Terra Moons, and is not a shade that I feel like is repetitive in my collection. Okay, and then my next selection is Arcturus. I always get this one confused with Venus in Chains. I think Venus in Chains is in one of my custom palettes right now, or else, you know, I may have included that because I like both of these quite a bit. I may actually like Venus in Chains just ever so slightly more because I like that's a little bit more red, but these are just very fiery, interesting shades. This one and Venus in Chains, and you can't go wrong with either one. But another one that's from the winter release that I absolutely love and think is very unique. And the texture on this one is also smoother. Okay, so that is Arcturus. The next one is, I think this one is from the spring 2023 release, so the most recent spring. It's Halleys Comet. And this is like, I want to say this is probably the most special duochrome that I own from Terra Moons. And I know that it's become a lot of other people's favorite as well. It's got kind of like a light pink base, and it's got a beautiful like bluish purplish shift to it, and it is incredibly sparkly. And there we have Halleys Comet. Okay, and then we're on the second half. I'm running out of space on the back of my arm, but that's fine. Another kind of grungy shadow that I think is very unique is Milky Way. This was from spring 2023, so pretty recent. And this one is a little bit flakier, maybe. I think it's not as smooth as some of my other shades, but it has like almost like a grayish base with these really cool kind of red sparkles throughout it. It's such an interesting shadow and very unique in my collection. So if you like grungy shadows, I think that this one would be a really great one to try out. So that's Milky Way. And then the next couple are a couple of older shades. This one is another one that I would consider like a favorite to a lot of people. Terra Moons has so many amazing purple shadows, and I love purple. This is Helix Nebula, and this is a cosmic chameleon. It's pretty smooth, very smooth, and it has sort of like a lighter purple / reddish shift to it. So that is Helix Nebula. I've seen some absolutely gorgeous looks that people have created with this shadow, and I have created looks with this one as well. I accidentally bought 2 of these pans, and I don't regret it because I love this shade. So that is Helix Nebula. The next one is, again, I think like an older one, a couple of years ago. This one was released, and this is called Series. And Series, I love it. And I think, you know, it wasn't like an immediate love for me. I think it just like, it's grown on me over time. But I love this periwinkle ethereal base. And the really kind of intense light pink shifts in it. There is a shade from Cleona that is pretty darn similar to this one that came out somewhat recently. It was in the stained glass extension line. And that is Hilt, Hilt. So another one that I don't think you need both, but this shadow I think is very unique and absolutely beautiful, especially if you like light ethereal types of tones. Okay, I'll be right back. And then the next shade is an iridescent shadow. This is also like from a few years ago, one of my favorites. Very kind of striking, has green, a lot of green in it, a little bit of gold, but it just looks so bright and reflective when used as an inner corner highlight or a cheek highlight or layered over other shadows. And this is Light Year. So there we have Light Year. And I wanted to include a couple of iridescent shadows in here because I think Terra Moons does iridescent shadows extremely well. And they have actually like quite a large selection for being an indie brand, a small indie brand. Well, growing, but you know, I'm just very impressed with the selection that they have. This is a recent iridescent shadow called Halo of Stars. And I would say that, you know, these are similar in texture. They're even a bit more sparkly than some of the older iridescent shadows. But this is a beautiful, like, has kind of a pinky base, like a hot pink base, and reddish shifts in it predominantly. But I absolutely love this one. And they did come out with a few recently, but I think, you know, so this one, and I forget the name of the other one off the top of my head, but I think trying like one of the two of those would be great if you like iridescent shadows. Really sparkly, shifty, and overall pretty smooth. So yeah, that is Halo of Stars. And then I had to, of course, select two more purples. I am obsessed with these purples that came out recently. You know, as with all of these, you know, I am not sure you need both of these. This one is Mystic Mountain, and this one is UltraViolet. And they do have similar shifts, which I'll show you. The UltraViolet is a little bit lighter. To me, it doesn't feel redundant having both of them, and the texture is different too. Mystic Mountain is a little bit smoother, but it is a little deeper in its base. So this is Mystic Mountain. It's got beautiful green shift in it, and is super sparkly. And I saw that, like, you know, this is definitely one of the best sellers from the most recent launch, and one that I don't think you can go wrong with if you like purple. And then the other one is UltraViolet. This one's a little bit flakier, and a little lighter in its base, but in my experience it smooths out well, and I loved how it looked in a look. I do really like ethereal multichromes, kind of light multichromes, and you can definitely see like a difference in its base compared to Mystic Mountain. So I don't think having both is redundant, but they do have, like, you know, some similar shifts going on. So that is UltraViolet, and UltraViolet is one of my own personal favorites from the most recent summer 2023 release. Okay, so this is the end of my selection of shadows. I do want to mention, since I forgot to mention at the beginning, that I have been a longtime customer of Terra Moons. You know, they're one of the first indie brands that I've tried, and you know, it's been really fun to see how they've grown. I have received some PR from Terra Moons in some of the more recent launches, but you know, like I was a longtime customer before that, and I have loved on Terra Moons for a long time. So, you know, although I have worked with them, I would say I swear by their multichromes and their shadows, and I know a lot of you guys feel the exact same way. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up. Follow me if you're not following me. I always forget to say that. And I also do have a code with Terra Moons that is non-affiliated. It does save on some of the shadows, and it's my username glamsmitty with 15. So if you'd like to try that to save some on some of their shadows, then you can give that a go. Anyway, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.